Okay, this video is going to be one that explains a little bit more detail about how to use this application called phpMyAdmin, which is basically enabling us to administer databases. So I'm just going to log in. Remember, your username is root, no password, server choice, MySQL. Click go. All right, okay, yeah. It needs to refresh it basically. Let's go. That's an old. Let's go back again. That's it. It was an old. It had been sitting there, not doing anything for ages, so it stops people finding pages and click go. Basically, sort of times out a bit. Anyway, I'm going to go in. So first thing we did earlier was we created this new database. So there's some other databases in here that are actually created automatically by this program. So whenever you install this WAMP program, you're going to get these, and MySQL, you're going to get, specifically MySQL, you're going to get these anyway. There's some icons up here about some documentation. There's some navigation panel setting. If you want to explore those, go ahead, you can. This home button here is basically this initial page that we're talking about here. This is how you can log out. So if we log out, and then we can log back in again. Okay, and we're back again. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to select this database here, and we've seen that we've got these tables. Okay, so it lists all the tables that we've got. We could create a new table if we wanted to in here, and but we're not going to do that at the moment. We're going to do that in a different, when we start thinking about SQL. But let's have a look at one of these tables. So let's have a look at our customers. We've noticed that we've been using customers already, and these are our columns that we've got. Okay, the address, county, initial, postcode, surname, blah blah blah, and indexes are basically, if you remember talking about our primary keys, we'll see what our primary key is, and our primary key is our customer ID. Okay, now if we wanted to, we could add more columns to the index to make a composite key. You would have learnt about that if you'd gone through the notes. So I suggest, if you haven't gone through the notes on the basics of databases, that you do that. But anyway, let's now have a look at this thing up here called Designer. We'll talk a little bit more about these later. Okay, a lot of these we're not going to bother with because they're sort of more advanced things that you don't really need to know about for A-level. But under the Designer, when I click the database up here, let's just click the database and click Designer. It will give you a diagram of the database that we've got. And if I zoom in a little bit, you will see that there are the connections. This is a one-to-many relationship that links items to orders and items. We talked about this when we looked at going into databases. Let's go back here, databases, and we started talking about many-to-many relationships and things like that. Okay, and then we had entity diagrams, and entity diagrams basically look like this. So we've got orders and items, and that's basically the same. This diagram here is exactly the same as the diagram I just showed you over here. Okay, so items, order and items is a one-to-many relationship. So in fact, let's just put that to the side here, and then let's put one note here, and let's just zoom back out of there a bit, and you'll see here that we have got that very same relationship here. orders is a one-to-many relationship to orders and items. Okay, and it's done on the item ID. So this is the primary key, and you can see that there's a picture of a key there. Here, that's indicating that this is a primary key into this table through the item ID, and this item ID is a foreign key back to this table. And we can go and have a look at the other relationships. So here we've got items and order and items. So if we go to our items table and order and items, that's what we've just described. But also we've got customers is a one-to-many relationship with orders. So here's our customers, and it's a one-to-many. You can see the difference. These things here, these sort of many things, are called crow's feet because they look like a crow's foot. So that's what they're called, crow's feet. Now these aren't really crow's feet, but you can see that they're slightly different to these connectors here. So this is the one, this is the many. So customers are related from the primary key called customer ID into the orders via this foreign key called customer ID. And that's how we're getting that one-to-many relationship there. So we can see that in this diagram. So that's really nice thing to have. The problem with this is, and it's a horrible problem, I don't know why they do it quite like this, is that if I go back to this page and back to the designer again, it mucks up with the order again. It's sort of changed the position of things, which is a real nuisance. If I click save the page name test 1, click OK, so this is test 1, and then I come back to here and back to designer again. I can then then I've got test 1, and it will save the layout of it a bit. Okay, I can remove the relationship lines if I want to. Okay, so when you're writing up your documentation for your projects, you're going to use this to get a picture of your relationships as your entity relationship diagram. And what we'll do is in another video, we're going to create another table, and we're going to link that table in here. And once we've done that, we're going to try and figure out how we can get this information into this application that we've written here.